Good morning. Nice to see you all. Yes, I'm here for the second time. Last time I was subbing, and today's my regular day. I'm Nancy. Nice to see you. Let's begin with prayer. Holy Spirit, loving presence within us, thank you for bringing us here together today. Thank you for the beauty of winter. As we look out onto the mountains, see the beautiful snow. Take a moment to thank ourselves and thank our loved ones and our friends for helping us maneuver through this snow. Thank you for our community and our cities and townships that move it so that we can come to church today and get to our jobs. Thank you to the county. Thank you to those individuals that make it easier for us. Thanks for the fellowship we have in this community. Amen. So, let me find my place. And my glasses will help. Oh, there I am. Mission statement. Let's say it together, please. We are a spirit-centered community, living love and uplifting lives. Thank you. And our daily word today is on faith. Filled with positive expectation, I expect only good. Unity minister Eric Butterworth writes in his Spiritual Economics, "You do not receive what you want. You do not receive what you pray for, not even what you say you have faith in. You will always receive what you actually expect." Each morning, even when clouds cover the sky, I expect the sun to rise. When I drift off to sleep, I expect to awaken refreshed. When I express the desires of my heart in prayer, are my expectations limited, or do I expect only good? As I pray, if I discover a thought of lack or limitation, I remember that I am a living expression of God, heir to all that God is. I release the limiting thought gently and without judgment. Freed from thoughts of limitation, I expect only good, and my good comes to me. From Luke 12:32. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Faith. Prayer. Prayer works. We've been praying in unity for over 100 years, 24/7. If you have a prayer need, please fill out one of the prayer requests, and we will be glad to pray with you over the next 30 days and send it to Silent Unity, who will also pray with you. Thank you so much. Prayer gives you comfort and strength in any situation. Thank you to our musicians today. Miss Julie, Leanne on piano, Jim on bass or guitar? Both. Cool. And our wonderful percussionist over there, who knows what he might be playing today. Thank you, and thank our guys back there that are bringing us to you on the silver screen. Well, is it a blue screen if it's a TV? Flat screen, on the flat screen. Very good. Our sound guy, Jim Sullenberg, and our PowerPoint, Brian Wright, and our video streaming, Mark Sauce. Thanks, you guys. And welcome those people that are on the video thing. So let's sing together and greet each other in between the two songs.
Okay, would you like to stand? And we'll sing together. It's a song called Right Where I Belong. Glorious morning, why ask for anything more? Follow where my heart leads, walk through this open door. I've always been a seeker, felt I was all alone. Now in this room full of smiling faces, I know I found my another verse. Here we go. Here in this space I'm accepted. I'm welcome just as I am. I'm ready to be inspired, to reach out a helping hand. This is a new beginning. I trust in my story. This is where joy lives, this is where love is, this is a place
Larry, how are you? Mr. Banana. Banana. Stone. Oh, that's here in Coeur d'Alene. Send me that date, okay? I don't. Hello. 1, 2, 3.
A song of praise is a good way. It's a very good way. A song of praise is a good way to start your day. A song of praise is a good way. It's a very good way. A song of praise is a good way to start your day. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. A song of praise is a good way. It's a very good way. A song of praise is a good way to start your day. A song of praise is a good way. It's a very good way. A song of praise is a good way to start your day. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
Hey. So, thank you. If you are new to our loving spiritual center, we welcome you. If this is your first time attending and you're comfortable with raising your hand, we'll bring you a little packet. And if you don't want to raise your hand, you can pick one up on your way out. But we just want you to know that wherever you are on your spiritual path, you are welcome here. Thank you so much for being here today. And, whoops, there we go. Just want to make sure I don't forget anything. Our announcements today, our new membership class is today after the service. Whether you are interested in knowing more about Unity or ready for membership, you are welcome to attend this class. There's going to be a light lunch in the little friendship room. So if you've been thinking about it and you didn't sign up before, you can still come into the class, have a bite of quiche, and come to the class and find, or maybe a couple bites of quiche, and come and find out more about Unity. That'll be up in this room after you have your quiche. And in addition, there is the Women in Unity meeting today. This is a women's group meeting on the third Sunday of each month. So put it on your calendar for next month if you have something else to do today. It's an opportunity for like-minded women to share their passions and concerns while enjoying each other's company. So if you didn't know it was today, you can stay because we have plenty of food back there, and come and meet some of the women in our church. As a reminder, the Reiki Circle has been canceled this month. Look again for next month's meeting. That should follow up for next month. And our annual meeting is coming up. This is a time for the board officers to present an overview of the work and activities completing during the past year. It's also a time for active members to renew and approve the new fiscal budget, as well as to elect new candidates to the board. So please plan on attending. The more the merrier, and I'm sure we'll have a little bite to eat somewhere in there. And in addition, we will be holding another community think tank right after the annual meeting to brainstorm possible projects and initiatives for the coming year. Our focus will be on ways to increase our visibility and participation in the community. And see, Gaia, if you have any information about that or want to ask more information about it. And the Fat Follies Variety Show is coming up. This is a celebration of Mardi Gras the Unity Way. This is a delightful, family-friendly program featuring music and comedy to chase away the blues, the winter blues. Speaking of which, we are holding open auditions on Sunday, February 2nd. So if you want to perform a skit, musical number, comedy routine, or any other hidden talent, sign up for an audition in the sign up for an audition spot in the hallway. Yep. And if you're just thinking about it and you want to get a little feedback, put your name on there and come and talk to us, and we can maybe help you a little bit, right? Give you an extra person if you need. As a matter of fact, I need 2 more people for my skit. So if you're interested, let me know. I figured announcing it was good enough. And we want to thank Jesse for putting on the chess mess for so many months, and we're going to cancel that for a little while, maybe take it up later, but we really want to thank you very much for teaching that solitude of concentration and planning that chess brings us. Thank you so much, Jess. And for more details of what's happening here, please consult your bulletin or our website, and or anybody that likes on the board or something. If you have any questions, they will be glad to answer them. So let us prepare ourselves for a meditation with some lovely music. Thank you.
Please join me in singing Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to sing, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already passed. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far to freedom that will last, to freedom that will last.
And so I invite you now just to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that. And we begin our incredible journey inward, where we find grace and truth and love and peace and joy, where the Spirit of God, our divine nature, our divine self, moves in and through us and begins its expression into the world with creative ideas, with divine life, with great joy. Each of us had a moment in our journey that put us on the path, a spiritual path. When we began to see our life as an unfoldment of spirit. And so I invite you to remember that moment. Just get in touch with that place where you knew that there was more to this world than just what we see. That there is a spiritual foundation upon which it has been built. And there's a divine energy that lives within every single one of us. It is who we are. It is our true nature. It is what we have come here to express in whatever unique form of expression that we have been assigned or that has been given to us or that we have inherited. However it shows up for us, it is our gift to bring into the world. And maybe it's just a feeling that emanates throughout your being and that is brought into the world with a friendly handshake or a smile or a moment of connection with someone else. Maybe it is a specific task that we are to do, like Dr. Martin Luther King, whose job it was to transform the experience of his people. Maybe it is something simple, and maybe it's so profound that we have a difficult time getting our arms around it. But whatever it is, there is something there that is seeking to move in and through us. There is something that is guiding us, directing us, supporting us, encouraging us, being with us. Something that helps us to deal with whatever fears we have, whatever challenges that lie before us, whatever perceptions that might get in our way. That we know Spirit is free and open and loving and present and powerful, for it is the creative essence of the universe. And it is moving in a very powerful and loving way in each of us. And so we relax and open our hearts and ask whatever question of it that is in our mind and heart to ask. For as Jesus said, "Seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you." That whoever asks shall receive. Whoever seeks shall find, and whoever knocks, it will be opened unto them. For this is the truth. And so we allow that energy to move in a very powerful way right now, as we take just a moment to be with Spirit in the silence of our being. And so we know in the words of the song, this is right where I belong. With Spirit, with love, with a peaceful heart. We give thanks for all of this and for a healthy and prosperous and loving experience of life. For all these things we give thanks in the name and through the power of the living Spirit of truth. And so it is.
This song is called Om Namah Shivaya, and it has a little section in it that repeats, and it's Oh, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. It repeats a few times, so if you hear that, you are invited to sing it along with me. There's nothing in this world as healing as the water, yet to make the heart the soft there cannot be another. Soft and gentle is her way, she changes every hard place. Oh, Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya. There is nothing in this world as cleansing as the fire burning deep within our soul. Spirit rises higher. Fire cleanses everything, it changes all illusion. We sing of the elements, all is our grace, air that surrounds us, breathing our breath. Angels dance round and round our heads, oh boundless sky in your arms, spirits fly. Oh, Om Namah Shivaya. It's from water that I come, it's to earth that I will go. I'm the fire of transformation and the winds of change that blow. It's from water that I come, it's to earth that I will go. I'm the fire of transformation and the winds of change that blow. Oh, Om Namah Shivaya. Oh, Om Namah Shivaya.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I'm back in the ashram. So, you know that the tambourine is on a little foot pedal down here? Did you see that? It's pretty interesting, yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued with that. An old man goes into a bank in England, and he said he wishes to deposit £100. He tells the teller that he's never put money into a bank before in his life, and he's worried that he will lose it if the bank collapses, as happened to his father in the 1930s. Well, don't worry, smiles the teller. If the bank went bust, there's a compensation scheme. Well, what if that scheme goes bust? He says, well, the old man persists, well, I suppose the government steps in. Well, the teller says, what if the government goes bust? The old man asks, well, if that were to happen, smiled the teller, then the EU would step in. Maybe not now, but... But if the EU were to collapse, the old man wails. What, says the teller? Don't you think £100 is a small price to pay for such an amazing event? You know, we all have our fears, don't we? We all have the things that we're concerned about. We're afraid of things. Everybody, I mean, at some level, we're worried about getting to an appointment on time. We're worried about, is there going to be too much traffic on the highway? We're worried about, is it going to snow? And I'll have to get up early and take care of things. You know, there's always something to be concerned about in our daily life and our daily experience. We often are worried about getting sick, or that we might get a diagnosis that we don't want, or we're maybe struggling with a relationship, or, you know, I think if we carried a notebook with us and wrote down every time we worried about something or felt a sense of fear about something, we'd probably be astonished at the number of times that shows up in our experience. I think that fear is not necessarily always a bad thing. I mean, we were given these physical bodies, and we were given this instinct, this ability to fight or flight or to deal with those kinds of situations so we could survive, so we could be aware, or you know, so that we could know what it is that we are to do. Fear of failure can often motivate us dramatically. But it also, some of these fears cause us to do things that we might not otherwise do. I was reading a story about a congressman in New York just this past week was convicted of insider trading. And what happened was that he's on a committee, and the committee dealt with pharmaceutical companies, and so he knew a lot of stuff that was going on. And his son apparently had bought a bunch of stock in this particular pharmaceutical company, and so this congressman was at a party, and he got a phone call that said that the company's product that they were trying to put to market was not approved and was rejected by the federal government, so they couldn't put it out there. And so he immediately panicked, and he called his son and said, "Sell your stock," and which saved his son about $800,000. And the thing is, his son could have handled the loss, right? But so he ends up getting charged with insider trading, convicted, and he's waiting for a sentence to jail. And so sometimes our fears can cause us, if we're not clear and aware and focused, to do things that we might not otherwise do, and to regret things that we've done. And he certainly was regretful of that experience. Henry David Thoreau says that most people lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with a song still in them, which feels sad. Kind of makes you feel sad, you know. But the good thing is that there's a song in us, right? So we know that, a song waiting to be sung. And what stops us is fear. The fear of what will happen if we put that out there, if we do something, you know, to make that song begin to happen. And so when I was taking a fear inventory of my own life, my own experience, what I've done, you know, one of the things that kept coming up for me was around fears. I kind of worked my way through the fear of death. I figured it's inevitable, so why get caught up in it, right? And so what really showed up for me was the fear of family, of my kids, when I was thinking about it. It's like my concerns were, are they going to do well? Are they going to be okay? Or, you know, the things that was where most of my energy was. And I've always been relatively willing to step out in faith. In fact, the word reckless comes to mind when a few times. When I went to ministerial school, boy, a lot of folks thought that was really reckless. loading up a U-Haul truck with 2 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats, all the furniture, leaving my job and heading across country. But fear wasn't a part of it for me. I was being called. This feeling, I was being called. It was so intense, so powerful, being called that it did affect the lives of my parents and other people around, that they thought, you're nuts, But I knew. And so sometimes that's how it works for us, is that we know what it is we're supposed to do, but others may not feel comfortable with what it is that we are deciding to do. The baby boomers, now call us the boomers, right? We went through the fear of annihilation through a nuclear holocaust when we were growing up. Those of you who remember that were experienced that, diving under the desk for drills and just that kind of that overriding sort of mushroom cloud kind of dynamic that with a lot of fear attached to it. And of course the Cuban Missile Crisis did not help things any. It just amped it up and made it even worse. So we lived in that context, in that awareness that the world as we knew it could end any moment as children. So we didn't have the logical sort of way of sort of working our way through that. We just had to feel it and try to forget about it and try to not think about it in terms of our experience. But what happened is I think it changed the boomer generation in a lot of different ways, because we began to speak out about things. In fact, we became the generation that lives everything out loud. We live out loud in terms of birthing babies or getting married, or all the life struggles with we're out loud about child abuse and other things. So we talk about everything. When we got to the menopause stage, there was articles all over the place about menopause and how to go through menopause. And as we age and get older, we're very vocal and verbal about the issues and the dynamics and the challenges of aging. And so I think that came because of some of those feelings that we experienced as children. It didn't matter. We could talk about things. We could protest things, the Vietnam War. All that stuff, I think, there's a causal thing that happens with a particular generation that causes us to behave and do things in a certain way. And I think that's a seminal part of our experience, those of us that grew up in the 50s and the 60s. And so it's very powerful. In this modern world, or in any time throughout history, it's very difficult to really feel secure. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much of anything you have. It's not easy to feel secure because so much of what goes on seems to be out of our control. The last little kerfuffle we went through with the Iranian thing just kind of reminds us of just how unstable things can get so quickly in our life experience. And so I think the idea that we can just live comfortable lives that's secure, and we can get into our little gated communities and we can just kind of hang out and everything's great is a myth. And it isn't that we shouldn't do that. It isn't that we shouldn't take care of things like that. It's just the recognition that there's so much more that's going on and that we all have these concerns and dynamics that exist. It was interesting that in Jesus' time, when Jesus fed the 5,000, after he performed that particular miracle, and how anybody relates to that is not the issue here, but after he fed the 5,000, he sent his disciples to cross the water in a boat while he stayed on the shore. And it says in Matthew 14:24-33, it says, "It grew late, and he was there by himself. The boat was already some furlongs from the shore, battling with a headwind and rough sea. Between 3 and 6 in the morning, he came to them walking over the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were so shaken that they cried out in terror, 'It's a ghost!' But at once he spoke to them, 'Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid.' Peter called to him, 'Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you over the water.' 'Come,' said Jesus. Peter stepped down from the boat, walked over the water towards Jesus, but when he saw the strength of the gale, He was seized with fear and began to sink, and he cried, "Save me, Lord." And Jesus at once reached out and caught a hold of him and said, "Why did you hesitate? How little faith have you?" They then climbed into the boat, and the wind dropped, and the men in the boat fell at his feet, exclaiming, "Truly, you are the Son of God." It's a powerful affirmation of faith. In fact, Peter is the disciple that represents faith. And it's interesting that he had that moment, where he lost faith. And I imagine we all probably, if we were standing on a lake walking across, would have a moment when I wonder when I'm going to sink. That's what would come up. But living in a physical body is a lot like walking across it's an amazing experience. It's like walking across a lake, living in this body. And our birth is kind of like stepping out of the boat. How we got here and the dynamics involved on a spiritual level, we step out of this boat into this experience. And it is an experience like that. It has that component to it. It requires of us, if we're going to live a productive, happy, joyful life experience, it requires of us a deep sense of faith and belief in who it is that we are and how it is that we show up in life. When our attention, and the message in this story is as soon as he took his attention off the divine, is when he started to sink, is when his faith faltered. But as long as he kept his attention on the divine presence, the spiritual essence, then he was able to perform or be a part of that miracle. Peter did. So when we get distracted in our life, we begin to sink. That's when the challenges begin to show up. And that's when we get wet. We struggle. And living successfully, lovingly, abundantly, joyfully, reverently, we live that when our thoughts are predominantly on the divine presence within us. That's the message. When we stay connected to our spiritual essence, to the spirit of life and joy and love, and all the good experiences of spirit, because that's what spirit is, then when we stay connected to that, then our life unfolds smoothly, relatively, with some sense of order and a sense of peace. Because it's not about the absence of fear, it's about living with a peaceful heart. We can have moments of fear, but when we have a peaceful heart, we move through them quickly. We deal with them effectively. We work with them constructively. We don't let them cause us to sink. We might get our knees wet, but we get back up and we begin to move forward in our life. In the book Lead Like Jesus, Ken Blanchard and Phil Hodges says that the root cause of toxic fear is a life built on a lie that tells us we are not safe playing things God's way and we are going to miss out on something good. It's fear, which is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Fear always separates us from God, always causes us to compare ourselves with others, always distorts the truth of what's really going on in our experience, and is a product of an ego that is separate. And he uses the word ego as an acronym for edge God out. That and what that means is when we live our life totally in our egocentric consciousness, then we edge out any spiritual impressions of spirit that come to us and guide us and lead us. We don't listen to them. We just move, we just look at the world and try to react and respond and deal with things in the world. And we basically live our life mostly out of fear, that our motivations and stuff come in that direction. But if we can direct our ego towards spirit, then ego may stand instead for exalt God only. Focus on spirit. So there's a way of kind of looking at it, to remember when you feel like that sense of fear, you can think, well, I can focus on, I can exalt God only in this moment. If you're living in discomfort and fear, and you're seeking to fulfill your dreams, to manifest your dreams, be financially solid, to be prosperous in a relationship, then living the spiritual life is how we do that. Edwene Gaines, I don't know how many of you know Edwene Gaines. Probably many of you have seen her. she's quite a character. She's a Unity minister, and her whole life, most of her ministry has been about prosperity. And she wrote a book called The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And in the book, she tells about an experience where she took a group of people to Ecuador. And they went high up into the mountains, 14,000 feet into the Andes, to this indigenous group of folks that were there. And they went through quite a few experiences. They rappelled down rocks. They walked on fire. They did a fire walk. They did a whole bunch of stuff. And then finally, towards the end of their experience, they were together in a group, and one of the shamans there, the shamans ran around, they wore these bird-like headdresses, made them look like birds. So they were running around. So the shamans come up and they said, through an interpreter, would anybody here like to have a healing? Well, immediately her hand shot up, And so she stood up, and so they gathered the whole village, and everybody was there, including the group that she brought. And they were in this big area. To her, it felt fairly small, but it was big enough to hold everybody, and it was on a dirt floor. And she's standing there. They brought her up. She's standing there. And one of the shamans speaks to the interpreter, and the interpreter walks up to her and says, he said that you have to take off your clothes. And she stood there, and she said, and thought to herself, well, that's not going to happen. No way. And all the body shame came up, all the stuff that she was feeling. And, and she says, let's see where I'm at here. She said, none of my body parts were in their original starting positions, and I was experiencing a lot of body shame. So she said, after some mental gymnastics, she began to listen to her intuition, which said, isn't this exactly what you've traveled halfway across the world to do? And just think about that yourself. You get an idea, get an opportunity. Isn't this exactly what we came here to do? That's a question. She asked that question. Didn't you commit to moving through your fear? Didn't you agree to be healed? Those are the questions. And so she did it. And they spent the next hour and a half beating on her with nettles, pounding on her with sacred rocks, blowing in the top of her head, blowing into her heart space, and she experienced a healing, a moment. It was a healing of a lifetime of shame and guilt that left her. Willing to step forth, to move through the fear. I still think I would stand there and say, But you never know. When the opportunity presents itself, you never know what's going to come up for you in your experience. So the question is, what are you afraid of? What are you really afraid of? What fear in you edges God out, pushes God away from your experience? What is stopping you from doing what it is that your heart is telling you to do at some level, in some way, in some step forward? And maybe it isn't jumping off a cliff and hand gliding or something, but maybe it's just a small step. Maybe it's something you can move towards. You can start moving in that direction and start to create it in your life experience. I wish it got easier as we got older. I think it gets harder in some respects as we get older. One of the journeys of aging that is absolutely prevalent is that aging is really about letting go. It's a constant journey. Once you hit a certain point in life, most of the time you spend letting go of things, letting go of your children, letting go of your grandchildren, letting go of parents who pass away, letting go of friends who move on, pass away, go other places, move away. It's just letting go. You're constantly letting go, and the older we get, the more we have to let go of, the more things we have to let go of. People in their late 90s and 100 no longer have any of their friends around. They've ultimately had to let go of everything and everybody. And so it's a journey of letting go. And sometimes you can get caught up in the fear of it. I know for folks who are struggling with taking care of their their needs, have to let go of their home and move into a community to have that, to give them help. That's hard to do. It's hard to let go of driving your car. That's hard to let go of for those who have relied upon and saw that as a source of their freedom. And so that's the journey. And we can either move into that journey with fear, or we can move into it with recognition and an awareness that we can embrace the journey. We can, it's waking up every day and saying, well, one fellow told me, he's was in his late 80s, he says, well, I wake up every day and look around and say, well, I'm still here, and that's a good thing, and moves on, and that kind of awareness is important. Because, every day is an opportunity. Every day is a day that we can live our life, that we can feel Spirit. Doesn't matter whether we're 5 years old or 105 years old. Every day is a day that we can accomplish something in our consciousness, in our life, in our experience. That maybe it's another day of letting go of something. But that's okay, because when we let go, we become lighter. The load gets lifted. And we're lighter. And it can be a freeing experience in many cases for many people. Very powerful experience. Carlos Castadas once said that fear is the black bird that sits on your shoulder and tells you to pay attention. Fear is the black bird that sits on your shoulder and says, hey, here I am, pay attention. Because this is another opportunity for you to connect with Spirit. To exalt God only, to open our hearts and our minds and our lives and our experience, and to live a life with a peaceful heart, a joyful heart, a loving heart, and to deal with whatever comes. Because whatever comes is something that we can work with in some way. God bless you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
It astonishes me sometimes how Spirit works in my life when it comes to music. I was asked to sing this next song last weekend for the Sons of Norway because it was written by Norwegian composers for the movie Frozen. I thought, it's not really my kind of song, but okay, I'll do it. So I learned it, and I thought, we'll just do it for church. Well, it just fits perfectly today, so thanks. Thanks for picking your topic around my song.
The snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. The wind is howling like this rolling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I've tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. It's funny how some distance makes it
me.
It covers a lot of levels. Letting go, snow, storms. You got it all. Thank you. Let's take our gifts in our hands as we bless them. And I also want to invite those who are viewing online. It's your opportunity to give. You can give through text. You can use the number that's on your screen, and you can text a gift to Unity Spiritual Center and support this live streaming service. And so we thank you for that. So let's take our gifts for a moment and just give thanks. Just enter with a sense of gratitude that we truly have an opportunity to engage in a very conscious and loving way as we give these gifts and let go of them and send them on their way, knowing that we are creating a space where Spirit will come and fill us 10 times over with good. And so let us bless these gifts as we sing our offering blessing. Let us pray. Father, Mother God, we acknowledge this offering as the very substance of your being, created for our use before the world was formed. We know it has been shaped and formed in our thoughts and in our hearts, and now comes into manifestation through our thoughts and our words, and enters this your ministry with your blessing upon it. According to your perfect law, it returns to each giver heaped up, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. For our increased understanding of this law, we do give thanks. Amen. And now let's welcome our children in.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Wow. Well, I bring you the Chase and the Holmes family to our service. Who's
I have it.
Chase? You have it.
My Christ light shines for all to see.
That's an affirmation. My Christ light shines for all to see. Together. My Christ light shines for all to see.
And we make snowflakes, and this one is a freestyle.
Anybody else?
Custom made snowflakes.
Anybody else want to give a sermon or? Nothing else? Okay. Well, let's all stand and join hands as we sing "Let There Be Peace on Earth." For protection together. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is, because I am. And all is well. Amen.